Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of The Foul King, a Korean comedy from 2000 that was directed by Kim Ji-woon and stars Song Kang-ho. Now this is Kim's second theatrical film following The Quiet Family from 1998, and it's pretty interesting to discover that although this director is frequently associated with some very serious movies, his first two films were actually comedies. The last time I saw The Foul King was way back in 2006, so this was a big test to see if this film really holds up over time. Dae-ho, played by Song Kang-ho, has been a huge fan of professional wrestling since his childhood. In South Korea, a wrestler called Kim Il was a big star in the 1970s, but Dae-ho preferred a cheating fighter called Ultra Tiger Mask. Years later, as an adult, when his job at a bank is not going well, he decides to take up professional wrestling as a hobby. So that's your plot. Now, very early on, you realize that our protagonist is not exactly someone who excels in life. The opening scene shows him arrive late to work, again, and then his boss berates him for failing to open a single new account. He's one of the worst performers in the company, and he definitely has a lack of drive in life. He's pretty lazy, has no work ethic, etc. But still, he's played by Song Kang-ho, so he's still rather likable and easy to root for. And thankfully, he becomes more motivated and driven after he takes up wrestling. So the key element for a traditional character arc is here. He develops and changes as the film progresses. There is really a true character arc in this film, and it's very well executed. Now, one thing you're probably wondering is exactly how wrestling will be incorporated into the film. Or you may not be wondering about that at all, because it seems fairly obvious from the plot synopsis. Our main character is going to take up wrestling as a hobby. And yes, it basically works that way, but near the beginning, you may be surprised to see that wrestling is incorporated into public life in this film. So for example, like within the opening 5 minutes, we get a scene where his boss puts him in a headlock. He puts our protagonist in a headlock in the office bathroom and taunts him to break free. Then the boss says, welcome to the real world. It's a jungle out there. If you're weak, you die. So I kind of liked how the professional wrestling dynamic was incorporated into a few of the real-life scenarios in the film. It makes things pretty entertaining. Now, some of the wrestling scenes are actually pretty good, and there are some surprising moments that occur in the ring when the characters are wrestling. Song Kang-ho seemed to perform some of his own moves as well, which is pretty cool. Of course, some of the wrestling scenes are actually terrible, but intentionally so for the purpose of comedy. We get lots of training moments as well, which shows our main character get better at wrestling little by little. I think the comedy works well in this film. A lot of it is created from situational humor and dialogue. There is a bit of wacky slapstick here and there, but not as much as you might expect going into this. The Foul King has a nice variety of gags. So for example, some of the funny moments early on in the film involve characters who basically just observe that our main protagonist is a disappointment in life, and he's just utterly incompetent. Like that's part of the humor early on, and it works pretty well. There are also a few daydream scenes that are funny, and even a little bit of black comedy that's mixed in. Another thing I want to point out is that this movie takes itself seriously enough to give it balance. There are some legitimate dramatic moments in this, and that helps to give the story and characters some weight. There are a few recognizable faces in the supporting cast. I'll let you discover some of those for yourself. There's not really a lot to complain about regarding The Foul King. I think if I had to make one demand, I would have liked a few more scenes that incorporated the professional wrestling element into real life. They do it, they sprinkle it in throughout the film, but I would have liked maybe a few more scenes with that element, the blending those together. But that's kind of a minor gripe. So if you're in the mood for a fun comedy with some A-list talent who are still in their early years of filmmaking, that includes the main actor and the director, you gotta check this one out, I think. It's currently streaming on Amazon, and Asian crush in the United States. And as always, we will see you next time.